Section 7 of In Time of Emergency, A Citizen's Handbook on Nuclear Attack, Natural Disasters, by United States Office of Civil Defense. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Part 2. Major Natural Disasters. Many of the actions recommended in Part 1 of this handbook to help you prepare for and live through a nuclear attack, such as learning the warning signals, stocking emergency supplies, taking a course in emergency skills, and knowing how to fight fires at home, also would help you in case a major natural disaster occurs in your area. If you are prepared for nuclear attack, you are also prepared to cope with most peacetime disasters. Disasters that kill hundreds of Americans every year, injure thousands, inflict widespread suffering and hardship, and cause great economic loss. Part 2 of this handbook is intended to help you prepare for those natural disasters that may occur in your area, and tell you the right actions to take if they occur. Chapter 1 gives general guidance applicable to various types of natural disasters. Succeeding chapters give special advice on floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, winter storms, and earthquakes. Chapter 1. General Guidance. There are certain things you can learn and do that will help you get ready for and cope with almost any type of natural disaster. Perhaps the most basic thing you can do is to keep calm. This may mean the difference between life and death. In many disasters, people have been killed or injured needlessly because they took thoughtless actions when they should have done something else, or done nothing at all just then. In a time of emergency, taking proper action may save your life. Take time to think, and then take the considered action that the situation calls for. Usually, this will be the action you have planned in advance, or the action you are instructed to take by responsible authorities. Here is other guidance that applies to most types of natural disasters. Warning. Learn your community's warning signals. In most communities having outdoor warning systems, the attack warning signal is a wavering sound on the sirens, or a series of short blasts on whistles, horns, or other devices. This signal will be used only to warn of an attack against the United States. Many communities are also using an attention or alert signal, usually a 3 to 5 minute steady blast, to get the attention of their people in a time of threatened or impending peacetime emergency. In most places, the action or the alert signal means that people should turn on their radio or television sets to hear important emergency information being broadcast. You should find out now, before any emergency occurs, what warning signals are being used in your community, what they sound like, what they mean, and what actions you should take when you hear them. Also, whenever a major storm or other peacetime disaster threatens, keep your radio or television set turned on to hear Weather Bureau reports and forecasts, issued by the Environmental Science Services Administration of the United States Department of Commerce, as well as other information and advice that may be broadcast by your local government. When you are warned of an emergency, get your information on the radio or television. Use your telephone only to report important events, such as fires, flash floods, or tornado sightings, to the local authorities. If you tie up the telephone lines simply to get information, you may prevent emergency calls from being completed. Emergency supplies. A major disaster of almost any kind may interfere with your normal supplies of water, food, heat, and other day-to-day necessities. You should keep on hand, in or around your home, a stock of emergency supplies sufficient to meet your needs for a few days, or preferably for a week. If you stayed at home during the disaster, these supplies would help you live through the period of emergency without hardship. If you had to evacuate your home and move temporarily to another location, your emergency supplies could be taken with you and used en route or after you arrived at the new location, where regular supplies might not be available. Even if you only had to move to an emergency shelter station set up by a local agency, these supplies might be helpful to you or make your stay easier. The most important items to keep on hand are water, preferably in plastic jugs or other stoppered containers, canned or sealed packaged foods that do not require refrigeration or heat for cooking, medicines needed by family members, and a first aid kit, blankets or sleeping bags, flashlights or lanterns, a battery-operated radio, and perhaps a covered container to use as an emergency toilet. In addition, an automobile in good operating condition with an ample supply of gasoline may be necessary in case you have to leave your home. In those parts of the country subject to hurricanes or floods, it is also wise to keep on hand certain emergency materials you may need to protect your home from wind and water, such as plywood sheeting or lumber to board up your windows and doors, and plastic sheeting or tarpaulins to protect furniture and appliances. Fire protection and fire fighting. Fires are a special hazard in a time of disaster. They may start more readily, and the help of the fire department may not be available quickly. Therefore, it is essential that you 1. Follow the fire prevention rules given on page 52, and be especially careful not to start fires. 2. Know how to put out small fires yourself. 3. Have on hand simple tools and equipment needed for firefighting. After a natural disaster. Use extreme caution in entering or working in buildings that may have been damaged or weakened by the disaster, as they may collapse without warning. Also, there may be gas leaks or electrical short circuits. Don't bring lanterns, torches, or lighted cigarettes into buildings that have been flooded or otherwise damaged by a natural disaster, since there may be leaking gas lines or flammable material present. Stay away from fallen or damaged electric wires, which may still be dangerous. Check for leaking gas pipes in your home. Do this by smell only. Don't use matches or candles. If you do smell gas, do this. 1. Open all windows and doors. 2. Turn off the main gas valve at the meter. 3. Leave the house immediately. 4. Notify the gas company or the police or fire department. 5. Don't re-enter the house until you are told it is safe to do so. If any of your electrical appliances are wet, first turn off the main power switch in your house, then unplug the wet appliance, dry it out, reconnect it, and finally turn on the main power switch. Caution: do not do any of these things while you are wet or standing in water. If fuses blow when the electric power is restored, turn off the main power switch again, and then inspect for short circuits in your home wiring, appliances, and equipment. Check your food and water supplies before using them. Foods that require refrigeration may be spoiled if electric power has been off for some time. Also, don't eat food that has come in contact with floodwaters. Be sure to follow the instructions of local authorities concerning the use of food and water supplies. If needed, get food, clothing, medical care, or shelter at Red Cross stations or from local government authorities. Stay away from disaster areas. Sightseeing could interfere with first aid or rescue work, and may be dangerous as well. Don't drive unless necessary, and drive with caution. Watch for hazards to yourself and others, and report them to local authorities. Write, telegraph, or telephone your relatives after the emergency is over, so they will know you are safe. Otherwise, local authorities may waste time locating you, or if you have evacuated to a safer location, they may not be able to find you. However, do not tie up the phone lines if they are still needed for official emergency calls. Do not pass on rumors or exaggerated reports of damage. Follow the advice and instructions of your local government on ways to help yourself and your community recover from the emergency. Chapter 2: Floods and Hurricanes. In addition to the general guidance in Chapter 1 of this section, there are certain emergency actions particularly associated with major floods, hurricanes, and storm tides or surges. These types of disasters usually are preceded by extended periods of warning. People living in areas likely to be most severely affected often are warned to move to safer locations. Evacuation. If you are warned to evacuate your home and move to another location temporarily, there are certain things to remember and do. Here are the most important ones. Follow the instructions and advice of your local government. If you are told to evacuate, do it promptly. If you are instructed to move to a certain location, go there, don't go anywhere else. If certain travel routes are specified or recommended, use those routes rather than trying to find shortcuts of your own. It will help if you have previously become familiar with the routes likely to be used. If you are told to shut off your water, gas, or electric service before leaving home, do so. Also, find out on the radio where emergency housing and mass feeding stations are located in case you need to use them. Secure your home before leaving. If you have time and if you have not received other instructions from your local government, you should take the following actions before leaving your home. Bring outside possessions inside the house or tie them down securely. This includes outdoor furniture, garbage cans, garden tools, signs, and other movable objects that might be blown or washed away. Board up your windows so they won't be broken by high winds, water, flying objects, or debris. If flooding is likely, move furniture and other movable objects to the upper floor of your house. Disconnect any electrical appliances or equipment that cannot be moved, but don't touch them if you are wet or standing in water. Do not stack sandbags around the outside walls of your house to keep floodwaters out of your basement. Water seeping downward through the earth, either beyond the sandbags or over them, may collect around the basement walls and under the floor, creating pressure that could damage the walls, or else raise the entire basement and cause it to float out of the ground. In most cases, it is better to permit the floodwaters to flow freely into the basement, or flood the basement yourself with clean water if you feel sure it will be flooded anyway. This will equalize the water pressure on the inside and outside of the basement walls and floor, and thus avoid structural damage to the foundation and the house. Lock house doors and windows. Park your car in the garage or driveway, close the windows, and lock it, unless you are driving to your new temporary location. Travel with care. If your local government is arranging transportation for you, precautions will be taken for your safety. But if you are walking or driving your own car to another location, keep in mind these things. Leave early enough so as not to be marooned by flooded roads, fallen trees, and wires. Make sure you have enough gasoline in your car. Follow recommended routes. As you travel, keep listening to the radio for additional information and instructions from your local government. Watch for washed out or undermined roadways, earth slides, broken sewer or water mains, loose or downed electric wires, and falling or fallen objects. Watch out for areas where rivers or streams may flood suddenly. Don't try to cross a stream or a pool of water unless you are certain that the water will not be above your knees, or above the middle of your car's wheels, all the way across. Sometimes the water will hide a bridge or a part of the road that has been washed out. If you decide it is safe to drive across it, put your car in low gear and drive very slowly to avoid splashing water into your engine and causing it to stop. Also, remember that your brakes may not work well after the wheels of your car have been in deep water. Try them out a few times when you reach the other side. During a hurricane. If your house is on high ground and you haven't been instructed to evacuate, stay indoors. Don't try to travel, since you will be in danger from flying debris, flooded roads, and downed wires. Keep listening to your radio or television set for further information and advice. If the center or eye of the hurricane passes directly over you, there will be a temporary lull in the wind, lasting from a few minutes to perhaps a half hour or more. Stay in a safe place during this lull. The wind will return, perhaps with even greater force, from the opposite direction. Special advice on flash floods. In many areas, unusually heavy rains may cause quick or flash floods. Small creeks, gullies, dry stream beds, ravines, culverts, or even low-lying grounds frequently flood very quickly and endanger people, sometimes before any warning can be given. In a period of heavy rains, be aware of this hazard, and be prepared to protect yourself against it. If you see any possibility of a flash flood occurring where you are, move immediately to a safer location. Don't wait for instructions to move. and then notify your local authorities of the danger, so other people can be warned. End of Section 7. Section 8 of In Time of Emergency, A Citizen's Handbook on Nuclear Attack, Natural Disasters, by United States Office of Civil Defense. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Major Natural Disasters. Chapter 3. Tornadoes. When a tornado watch or forecast is announced, this means that tornadoes are expected in or near your area. Keep your radio or television set tuned to a local station for information and advice from your local government or the Weather Bureau. Also, keep watching the sky, especially to the south and southwest. When a tornado watch is announced during the approach of a hurricane, however, keep watching the sky to the east. If you see any revolving, funnel-shaped clouds, report them by telephone immediately to your local police department, sheriff's office, or Weather Bureau office. But do not use the telephone to get information and advice. Depend on radio or TV. When a tornado warning is issued, take shelter immediately. The warning means that a tornado has actually been sighted, and this, or other tornadoes, may strike in your vicinity. You must take action to prevent yourself from being blown away, struck by falling objects, or injured by flying debris. Your best protection is an underground shelter or cave, or a substantial steel-framed or reinforced concrete building. But if none of these is available, there are other places where you can take refuge. If you are at home, go to your underground storm cellar or your basement fallout shelter if you have one. If not, go to a corner of your home basement and take cover under a sturdy workbench or table, but not underneath heavy appliances on the floor above. If your home has no basement, take cover under heavy furniture on the ground floor in the center part of the house, or in a small room on the ground floor that is away from outside walls and windows. As a last resort, go outside to a nearby ditch, excavation, culvert, or ravine. Doors and windows on the sides of your house away from the tornado may be left open to help reduce damage to the building, but stay away from them to avoid flying debris. Do not remain in a trailer or mobile home if a tornado is approaching. Take cover elsewhere. If you are at work in an office building, go to the basement or to an inner hallway on a lower floor. In a factory, go to a shelter area, or to the basement if there is one. If you are outside in open country, drive away from the tornado's path at a right angle to it. If there isn't time to do this, or if you are walking, take cover and lie flat in the nearest depression, such as a ditch, culvert, excavation, or ravine. Chapter 4. Winter Storms. Here is advice that will help you protect yourself and your family against the hazards of winter storms, blizzards, heavy snows, ice storms, freezing rain, or sleet. Keep posted on weather conditions. Use your radio, television, and newspapers to keep informed of current weather conditions and forecasts in your area. Even a few hours' warning of a storm may enable you to avoid being caught outside in it, or at least be better prepared to cope with it. You should also understand the terms commonly used in weather forecasts. A blizzard is the most dangerous of all winter storms. It combines cold air, heavy snow, and strong winds that blow the snow about, and may reduce visibility to only a few yards. A blizzard warning is issued when the Weather Bureau expects considerable snow, winds of 35 miles an hour or more, and temperatures of 20 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. A severe blizzard warning means that a very heavy snowfall is expected, with winds of at least 45 miles an hour and temperatures of 10 degrees or lower. A heavy snow warning usually means an expected snowfall of 4 inches or more in a 12-hour period, or 6 inches or more in a 24-hour period. Warnings of snow flurries, snow squalls, or blowing and drifting snow are important mainly because visibility may be reduced and roads may become slippery or blocked. Freezing rain or freezing drizzle is forecast when expected rain is likely to freeze as soon as it strikes the ground, putting a coating of ice or glaze on roads and everything else that is exposed. If a substantial layer of ice is expected to accumulate from the freezing rain, an ice storm is forecast. Sleet is small particles of ice, usually mixed with rain. If enough sleet accumulates on the road, it will make the road slippery. Be prepared for isolation at home. If you live in a rural area, make sure you could survive at home for a week or two in case a storm isolated you and made it impossible for you to leave. You should keep an adequate supply of heating fuel on hand and use it sparingly, as your regular supplies may be curtailed by storm conditions. If necessary, conserve fuel by keeping the house cooler than usual, or by closing off some rooms temporarily. Also, have available some kind of emergency heating equipment and fuel, so you could keep at least one room of your house warm enough to be livable. This could be a camp stove with fuel, or a supply of wood or coal if you have a fireplace. If your furnace is controlled by a thermostat and your electricity is cut off by a storm, the furnace probably would not operate, and you would need emergency heat. Stock an emergency supply of food and water, as well as emergency cooking equipment, such as a camp stove. Some of this food should be of the type that does not require refrigeration or cooking. Make sure you have a battery-powered radio and extra batteries on hand, so that if your electric power is cut off, you could still hear weather forecasts, information, and advice broadcast by local authorities. Also, flashlights or lanterns would be needed. Consult page 72 of this handbook for other supplies and equipment that you may need if isolated at home. Be sure to keep on hand the simple tools and equipment needed to fight a fire. Also, be certain that all family members know how to take precautions that would prevent fire at such a time, when the help of the fire department may not be available. Travel only if necessary. Avoid all unnecessary trips. If you must travel, use public transportation if possible. However, if you are forced to use your automobile for a trip of any distance, take these precautions. Make sure your car is in good operating condition, properly serviced, and equipped with chains or snow tires. Take another person with you if possible. Make sure someone knows where you are going, your approximate schedule, and your estimated time of arrival at your destination. Have emergency winter storm supplies in the car, such as a container of sand, shovel, windshield scraper, tow chain or rope, extra gasoline, and a flashlight. It also is good to have with you heavy gloves or mittens, overshoes, extra woolen socks, and winter headgear to cover your head and face. Travel by daylight and use major highways if you can. Keep the car radio turned on for weather information and advice. Drive with all possible caution. Don't try to save time by traveling faster than road and weather conditions permit. Don't be daring or foolhardy. Stop, turn back, or seek help if conditions threaten that may test your ability or endurance, rather than risk being stalled, lost, or isolated. If you are caught in a blizzard, seek refuge immediately. Keep calm if you get in trouble. If your car breaks down during a storm, or if you become stalled or lost, don't panic. Think the problem through, decide what's the safest and best thing to do, and then do it slowly and carefully. If you are on a well-traveled road, show a trouble signal. Set your directional lights to flashing, raise the hood of your car, or hang a cloth from the radio aerial or car window. Then stay in your car and wait for help to arrive. If you run the engine to keep warm, remember to open a window enough to provide ventilation and protect you from carbon monoxide poisoning. Wherever you are, if there is no house or other source of help in sight, do not leave your car to search for assistance, as you may become confused and get lost. Avoid overexertion. Every winter, many unnecessary deaths occur because people, especially older persons, but younger ones as well, engage in more strenuous physical activity than their bodies can stand. Cold weather itself, without any physical exertion, puts an extra strain on your heart. If you add to this physical exercise, especially exercise that you are not accustomed to, such as shoveling snow, pushing an automobile, or even walking fast or far, you are risking a heart attack, a stroke, or other damage to your body. In winter weather, and especially in winter storms, be aware of this danger and avoid overexertion. Chapter 5: Earthquakes. If your area is one of the places in the United States where earthquakes occur, keep these points in mind. When an earthquake happens, keep calm. Don't run or panic. If you take the proper precautions, the chances are you will not be hurt. Remain where you are. If you are outdoors, stay outdoors. If indoors, stay indoors. In earthquakes, most injuries occur as people are entering or leaving buildings, from falling walls, electric wires, etc. If you are indoors, sit or stand against an inside wall, preferably in the basement, or in an inside doorway, or else take cover under a desk, table, or bench, in case the wall or ceiling should fall. Stay away from windows and outside doors. If you are outdoors, stay away from overhead electric wires, poles, or anything else that might shake loose and fall, such as the cornices of tall buildings. If you are driving an automobile, pull off the road and stop, as soon as possible and with caution. Remain in the car until the disturbance subsides. When you drive on, watch for hazards created by the earthquake, such as fallen or falling objects, downed electric wires, and broken or undermined roadways. After an earthquake. For your own safety and that of others, you should follow carefully the advice given in the section After a Natural Disaster. End of Section 8. End of In Time of Emergency, A Citizen's Handbook on Nuclear Attack, Natural Disasters, by United States Office of Civil Defense.